Good evening, lovely people. This is Dr. Maya. Um, I am a career development specialist at FDU Fairleigh Dickinson University in Teaneck, New Jersey. And today evening, I wanted to talk a little bit about a tool that we call reframing. But before we start that, I just want to let my audience know. Uh, some of you who've already watched the videos, you know that I've started this very recently, like a couple of weeks ago. And it's getting pretty serious now because I now have a light ring. Oh my God, I have a light ring. Can you imagine? Anyway, so that's the news of the day. Maya has a light ring. She's actually using it right now. I'm just super excited about this whole thing. But anyway, so on a slightly more serious note, given what's been going on in the world at the moment, as well as given the 21st century life we live in, which is almost always hectic and for a lot of people pretty exhausting, this is a tool I want to talk about today, and I very often talk about this with my students. This is the tool of reframing. It's a tool a strategy that I had learned about when I was doing my master's in counseling a few years ago. And as with a lot of other things, I find that when I study and learn, very often the person who's helped the most is me. So I'm a big fan of learning and having a growth mindset and always keeping my options open and kind of being curious about what's out there. So I have to say the counseling degree gave me lots and lots of tools, which over the next few weeks, months, years, I hope I will share with all of you. None of this is brand new. I tell my students constantly that there's these amazing tools called Google and YouTube and other search engines. But sometimes we just like to hear it from people we know. So here's my little spiel on reframing. Reframing is a tool we use so that we can look at a situation or an experience we're going through a little differently, ideally in a way that lets us feel more capable of taking action rather than feeling somewhat helpless or overwhelmed. So reframe is very much, you take the frame of the photograph and we shift it around a little bit. One of the ways I explain this to my students is the difference between using a telescope and a microscope. So if I'm using a telescope and I have a very wide berth of the lens and I am looking out at this huge, amazing, beautiful universe we live in, that is one way of seeing what's right in front of me. If I use a microscope and I dig deep in and I am looking at something that is minute, all the way down to maybe the nucleus of a single cell. So the telescope gives us this huge vista and the microscope gives us this very specific, very minute focus. The reality is, however, that just because I'm looking at the large scale reality through a telescope doesn't mean that the reality of the cell and the nucleus of the cell has disappeared. And just because I'm looking at the nucleus or the mitochondria in a cell, you can see I'm a little bit of a biology geek and neurobiology geek, as most of my students know. That doesn't mean, looking at a cell doesn't mean that we have simply erased the reality of the universe. So sometimes I'll have students who'll come in and say, I'm not able to make a decision. Actually, what happens much more often is, and I'll give an example, Student will walk in and say, I found this really fantastic job in Philadelphia. This is a student in, let's say, New Jersey. And she says, I've found this really cool job in Philadelphia, and it's perfect for me, and I really want to apply for it. But I'm not sure if I'm ready to move to Philadelphia. Okay, it's a very valid concern. Moving is a big step. But reframing teaches us, and this is what I will very often tell the student, do you have a cover letter? So what we do with the reframing is say, yes, there's the bigness of the decision that is pending, but what is in our capacity in the moment to bring it back to a bite-sized action step that is doable, that is reasonable, and that will then give us a little bit of energy to feel that we are in charge of our decision-making process. So when I talk about reframing, we are not saying that we are going to ignore the bigness of the problem. We are not saying that, oh, by refocusing, I am being, unmindful of the rest of it. What we are doing is saying, okay, I acknowledge that this is a problem, and in my world, I work a lot with engineers, and a lot of other students too, but in the engineering world, a problem is a good thing. A problem is something that can be solved. Not having a problem would be a pretty big problem for engineering and many other fields. But when we have a problem, we make it bite-sized. It's the only way we can move from this sense of this is a big, overwhelming experience and I don't know where to find the energy to make a decision. We move from that space to this space of, okay, what is in front of me right now? What is in my control in this moment? So a very quick, different example. A student will come in and say, I'm going to fail at the end of the semester. And let's say this is week 4, week 5. They still have 8 or 9 weeks left. Okay, so we're not going to simply say, of course you're not, you're really smart. We can say that, it's probably true. But in reframing, what we say is, chances are this week, today, next hour, you have the capacity to sit down and study for 30 minutes. That's it. That's the only thing that's in your control, is the next 30 minutes or the next 2 hours or the plan you have for tomorrow. And then when tomorrow comes around, you study for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and the day after. And you study day after day after day for the next 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks. Now we've changed the game from I'm going to fail far away in the future to what can I succeed in today, in the next 15 minutes. So in a nutshell, that's what reframing is when it comes to career training, when it comes to career counseling. We look at the abstract problem and we say, what's one small, doable action step, bite-sized problem can you tackle right now? And in doing that and repeating that and repeating that and repeating that, the big problems become smaller problems, and then we actually take action, and then there are results. And so this is as much of a life strategy as it is a career strategy. I did want to talk about this because I have it's not crazy. It's pretty normal to feel this way. We are living with a lot of anxiety, with a lot of stress, not knowing what's going to happen. Well, yes, but to some extent, for most of us, what we are doing in the next half hour or the next hour or 10 a.m. tomorrow, we probably do have a little bit of control over that in the moment. So if you are one of the many students out there worrying about your grades or the semester or your job search or what's going to happen when I graduate, keep that in mind. It's a valid concern, but I will also say, take a step back, reframe the problem, think about one action step you can take relatively soon, and see how that makes you feel. Again, my name's Dr. Maya Sanyal, and my YouTube link is in the website. So if you enjoy this, if you like it, please subscribe, because I'm right now trying to gather together 100 followers, because if I do that, then I get to have an URL that is customized to the website I use, which is alkadevika.com, ALKADEVIKA.com. And also I'm on Instagram at alka.devika and at maya.sanyal, maya.sanyal. And I'm starting to smile because this is a whole lot of self-propaganda that I never, ever, ever thought I would do, but well, here I am. Think about reframing, comment in the blog post, tell me what you're doing to reframe, and we shall continue this journey together. All right, take care. Have a wonderful night, my lovely, lovely friends, and in true Indian style, namaste. Good night.